evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, March 11th, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Persons and businesses operating in the agricultural sector will have to brace for an increase in the price of fertilizer soon. Word of this from Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves today during a visit to the Richmond Quarry project. PM Gonsalves said the increase is the first of many that will affect goods in SVG as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He described the war as one which places a financial burden on everyone, including Vincentians.
I want to say this. Already, this war is causing a lot of pain for us. Increasing prices. And more to come. Because of fuel, flour, fertilizer. The shipment which come in, landed, going to be $37 more.
We absorbing that?
That will carry to $150. When it went up recently, we absorbed it. We're not going to be able to absorb $37 per sack. But that's going to have certain impacts. And there is a broad contingency plan. We are getting a report from the Ministry of Finance on Wednesday and one from the Ministry of Agriculture.
PM Gonsalves said the prices of food and petroleum products will also be impacted.
28 July, it went to the highest in living memory, $147.50. Earlier this week, it went just past 140 and slipped down back. It depends on what happens with the overtures with Venezuela, with Saudi Arabia, with Iran in terms of additional quantities coming out. Whether in fact the Europeans close off the receipt completely of energy products from Russia.
You're looking at it.
So the point is this. It's a complicated question. But one thing which is on the horizon is the real prospect of increasing those prices. That's the way I formulate it.
The government of SVG has nothing to hide as it relates to the quarry project in Richmond being operated by the St. Lucian company Renew. So said Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who was speaking to members of the media on a site visit to the quarry today. PM Gonsalves said although the government made an error of not informing farmers in the area beforehand about the project, all the details of the agreement have been handled properly, including the details of the environmental social impact assessment. The environmental impact assessment has been a major talking point for environmentalists and the opposition, who have been calling for clarity. The Prime Minister said the government was already made aware that parts of the initial assessment done in 2018 would need to be updated.
And he has said, which we know, that the baseline material in that study is very strong. And a lot of the issues regarding mitigation there could be followed. But that particularly on the social side, you needed to update it. Fair enough. But he made the point too. He said, but that could be updated if you have the information to the current information to planning and tell them, including two things that planning asks for additional. For updates on the environmental management plan and the quarry management plan. Those are things which Dr. Murray himself said that you needed to update. And those, the physical planning board asked for the update of those things. And let me tell you this, the 2008 ESIA, the environmental management plan and the quarry management plan, which include the financials, all of you have it, you know. It was sent to you all by soft copy and hard copy. Never in the history of this country you have dissemination like that. We ain't got one single thing to hide.
The Prime Minister said the government expects over $50 million in the first 7 years of the project.
According to the agreement, anytime we buy any quarry material from them, they have to sell us at 8% below the price. That will give us a discount to the government. So the private sector going to get material, government going to get material to do these projects, and of course, we are getting the $2 per ton throughput. The part about the lease is small money. That's not where the money is. It's in the throughput per ton. Over the 30 years of the lease, you are looking at, you have here estimated about 25 million tons. They talk about $50 million. That's what I've been advised. But that is at $2. But in the year 2000, in the 7th year of the lease, we're going to do a revision.
The farmers affected by the project will have to wait a while longer for information about when they will receive compensation packages from the government. A member of Parliament for the constituency, Carlos James, told SVG-TV News on the sidelines of today's visit that Cabinet will be meeting on the matter soon.
This will be brought to the Cabinet for approval in terms of the sums to be paid out to the farmers. We're projecting somewhere close to about $200,000 will be allocated collectively for the farmers. Some very well will earn thousands of dollars in terms of compensation. But importantly, the farmers will be given lands to relocate and to continue their cultivation within the Richmond area. And the Prime Minister who visited today has identified some additional lands in which he is proposing to have a carve-out so that these farmers will be replaced and will be placed on those lands.
Richmond farmer Daisley Isaac said he hopes the government can act swiftly to deliver on its promises.
I am trying to get a piece of land, right, that I could start back to do my farming, okay, which I already saw a piece of land. I already spoke to Mr. Francis, and nobody didn't tell me when I'm supposed to move, right, and when to move for it. But if I could get it now, and if I could move now, I am very, very well satisfied, right, because eventually, really, I want a piece of land that I could go and start to do my farming.
In other news, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross Community Resilience Building Project on Thursday, March 10th, commissioned 2 micro-projects in the Bookament community. Both projects are geared towards mitigating the negative impacts of climate change. The first project will be introducing the students of the Bookament-based secondary school to micro-gardening approach to agriculture. A community resilience building project coordinator, Decima Hamilton, noted that the project is based in 3 other communities and is funded around the idea of educating children on climate change.
I would have visited the school and held conversations with the staff, and fortunately the school already had things in place. They were just awaiting some oil in the engine. And there we had the Community Resilience Building Project, a project which is being done in Belize as well as Suriname. Here in St. Vincent, we have 3 communities as well. I would have just referenced the Paget Farm team. We do have the Overland Magum team, and we also have your community as part of it. The idea is to teach children and young people the concepts of climate change and how we can mitigate those. This particular community has a very rich history of agriculture and fishing. And so it was very easy to look at the impact of climate change on the community and its livelihoods. We thought it best, perhaps, to introduce to this.
The second project commission was the Bookament Bay Community Bus Shelter, which will allow for aeration and protection from the sun and rainfall. The shelter will also be used as a new muster point for evacuation. The joint venture undertaken by GECO and the United Nations Jeff Small Grant Program to the tune of $1.3 million. Speaking at the opening ceremony, PM Gonzalez said the project is a showcase of civilization at its best.
Physical things which constitute an essential part of our Caribbean civilization and its Vincentian component. The hills are joyful together. The verdant green, the trees, the farms, not even 21 volcanic eruptions of La Soufrière last April could stop us less than a year later to do this. The river, which is vital to this community and all the villages, all the communities through which this river flows. Before, we had pipe-borne water in every single home. The river and a spring nearby used to be the source of the water. Water used to be very clean then, before bananas and with a lot of spraying. But human beings have to come to terms with nature in order for life and living and production to go on, and we have to do so sustainably.
Prime Minister Gonzalez further spoke on the benefits of River 14 to the people of South Rivers and surrounding areas, noting that it provides them with a livelihood and the recreation park is an added economic boost.
River was the place before washing machine that you used to go, as we say, sap your clothes. The river provides food because in addition to those things known as mullet and crayfish and river lobster and crab, and when you come and fishing for crayfish and river lobster, you have to be careful that you ain't go too close to the bank where they crab them, you find them because the gundi could bust your finger. Know it well. But you ain't mention macaque and you ain't mention suckstone and sandfish. Yeah, my brethren. And river eel, which is to be distinguished from those by the sea. We on the windward side don't eat those eel which come from the sea. We eat those from the river. Each cannery, there's treachery at the mouth of the river. And cannery treachery is the best treachery in the world. There is no treachery better than the treachery which come from Cannery River. You can laugh if you want. I'm a treachery man, I know it well.
Amidst the challenges faced with the eruption of La Soufrière volcano last April, the state of the island's medicinal cannabis industry remains strong. This is according to Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Medical Cannabis Authority, Dr. Gerald Thompson, who on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program last Sunday said that the eruptions caused significant impact on the industry. However, they battled through the storm and a lot of milestones and achievements have been taking place.
It is that how do we really ensure that this industry is one that is strong, that is viable, and that is going to help with the whole inclusion of other individuals. And that's where I want to say, traditional cultivators, they have had a process where they can be included. We've issued licenses, not just to investors and local cultivators, but also to traditional cultivators. They get their license free and they only pay $100. But we've had a tremendous amount of training, a tremendous amount of consultation as regards how we can bring them into the whole process. And we're very pleased and proud of that. And, you know, I consider traditional cultivators to be at the core of our operations and in the way in which we engage with them. I want to say that the state of the medicinal cannabis industry in St. Vincent and Grenadines is strong. And that we hope that in spite of the many challenges that we will face, we essentially are going to press on and continue to build this particular industry so that locally high quality product is available and that we're also exporting high quality products so that the world will know a lot more about St. Vincent de Grenadines.
Dr. Thompson spoke of the recently signed standard and compliance regulations for the industry, which he said strengthen the legislative framework under which medicinal cannabis and associated products can be produced and exported, which he said is significant for the development of the industry.
Several regulations, the patient access regulations, something that had consultation with doctors and pharmacists and patients, and now patients here in St. Vincent and those, I would say, visited, so can now have access to a range of products here in St. Vincent Grenadines. And then there's the standard and compliance regulations, which focuses on quality, and you'll be hearing a little bit more about that. But that really has set the standards by which we could move what is produced here in St. Vincent to an even greater level of quality. But then there'll be a number of other pillars that the industry is built on. Banking. We're probably one of the few islands that have achieved legal banking. And then there's something called good agricultural and collection practices. This is a World Health Organization standard that's been devised for medicinal plants. And it involves a lot in relation to how do you properly cultivate, how do you do the drying, how do you do the whole processing. And we're really happy that we think we've mastered those particular programs here, and our inspectorate are really adept in ensuring that they not only help farmers, but they're able to assess when and how it meets the standard, make the various corrections and so on.
Local nephrologist Dr. Tawana Brown-Caesar is urging persons with a chronic disease which can expose you to kidney disease to get early screening. Thursday, March 10, 2022 was observed as World Kidney Day under the theme Bridge the Knowledge Gap to Better Kidney Care. On NBC Radio Face-to-Face program today, Dr. Brown-Caesar outlined the signs leading up to kidney disease, noting that most of the time a patient shows no signs nor symptoms.
In the early stages, it has little or no symptoms. So you're not feeling ill, you're not vomiting, you're not losing your appetite, you don't have these swollen legs, and so that persons with advanced kidney disease tend to present with. But that does not mean that you can't have fairly advanced kidney disease without any symptoms. So persons who have diabetes, and diabetes account for about a third of persons with advanced kidney disease who require hemodialysis. Persons who have hypertension, that accounts for about a quarter of the patients who have kidney disease. These two groups account for almost half of the persons who are on dialysis. So if you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, if you have lupus, if you have sickle cell disease, all of these things predispose persons to kidney disease. You should ask your general doctor. You don't have to come to a kidney specialist for this. You should ask your general doctor to have your urine checked, to have your blood test checked to see what your kidney function is. And it's not something that you have to do very frequently if they're normal. If you have diabetes, they ask that you check your urine once a year.
Dr. Brown-Caesar said that one of our aims moving forward is to bridge the knowledge gap to educate the population, including children, about kidney disease.
In childhood, you're amenable to change. As opposed to in adults, you've lived this way all your life. Now I'm suddenly telling you to cut back on your salt. Even some of the kids we spoke to yesterday, when we say, hey, we really don't need to have as much salt in our diet. Fruits, just wait until they're a little bit riper. You don't have to add salt to them. They were like, oh, but it tastes great like that. So we recognize that although we were speaking to 5th graders and 6th graders and first formers, that their taste had already been sensitized to things that are not necessarily healthy for them. So it's important for us to bridge that knowledge gap to educate not just adults, but also children about kidney disease. And another aspect to that bridging the knowledge gap is, as a specialist, as a nephrologist, we talk in language and we see our kidney patients, but recognize that we also have to educate the district doctors, the junior doctors as to what to expect, what is appropriate. If you see a patient presenting like this is something that is a little bit more urgent. So we also want to include that.
World Kidney Day is a global campaign to raise awareness of the importance of our kidneys to overall health and to reduce the frequency and impact of kidney disease and associated health problems worldwide. The Buckerman Government School has come out on top in the Grade 6 writing competition hosted by the Ministry of Education and the National Reconciliation in collaboration with Hoda Education. Sienna Nelson wrote her way to the top through the preliminaries and the final rung, in which she wrote the winning piece titled "A Busy Market on a Saturday Morning." Annabelle McMaster of the Windsor Primary School placed second, and Akira Brown of the Newgrounds Primary School took the third spot. Several students were also awarded for their performance in the preliminary rung. Best Expository, Taisha Roberts, the Marroquin Government. Best Persuasive, Sean Barry of the Beckwith Anglican. Best Narrative, Akira Brown, Newgrounds Primary. Best Descriptive, Alicia Tibbles of the Newgrounds Primary. Over 20 primary schools participated in this year's competition, which is held annually to engender a culture of writing within the structure of a healthy school competition. St. Vincent and the Grenadines will on Monday, March 14, celebrate National Heroes Day, honoring the island's lone national hero, Paramount Chief Joseph Chartier, under the theme Appreciating Our Identity, Preserving Our Heritage with Pride. Minister of Tourism and Culture, Carlos James, said the presence of COVID-19 made it challenging to set up a program for the cultural celebrations over the last 2 years. However, they have done their best to ensure some activities are held this year, starting today.
We've had a challenging time during this COVID period to really effectively put together a comprehensive program of our cultural exhibitions as it relates to National Heritage and Heroes Month. We start this weekend, this Friday, the Department of Culture, I think it's Garifuna way, and of course later today we will experience a drum circle by a number of the creative persons who have been carrying the heartbeat drummers and the creative culture alive. They have been keeping it alive and they've been carrying it. And we'll have an exhibition this afternoon at Heritage Square. And of course, later in the evening is the official launch of the Garifuna Conference. It is held annually just before our March 14th celebration of our first national hero, Joseph Chartier.
Minister James noted that there are a lot of activities scheduled in different communities for the holiday weekend, which will conclude on Heroes Day, Monday, March 14th.
Of course, on the weekend, we will see a number of activities, particularly in North Leeward, the Rosal Cultural Development Organization. I know they're having a virtual event. Monday, we will, of course, in the morning, go to Dorsetshire Hill at the obelisk, and we, of course, honor the great Chief Joseph Chartier, a man who has really exemplified what it is to be a Vincentian, what it is to be a resilient Vincentian from historical narrative to present day. And later in the evening, I believe there's a drive-through in Greg's. What they will be doing is traditionally, just as we normally do in Sandy Bay and in Fancy, put on a showcase with food and featuring the gastronomy. But they will be doing one in Greg's this Department of Culture. They're working assiduously to put together a number of programs. Some of them virtually. For instance, I know they're looking at doing some activities with poetry and drumming and the arts and so on, which will take place and feature later in the month.
The 9th International Garifuna Conference, hosted by the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, will commence virtually this evening under the theme Building Resilience, Creating Cultural Capital for Sustainability of the Garifuna Heritage. The opening ceremony for the conference is expected to start at 8 p.m. via Zoom. The guest presentation will be delivered by Monique Joseph of the UWI Seismic Research Center, who will speak on the topic Changing Landscapes and Reimagining the Red Zone Experiences in Post-Disaster Community Engagements for Monitoring Hazards in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The keynote address will be delivered by Garifuna entrepreneur from Belize, Darius Avila, whose leadership and vision created the Battle of the Drums movement in Belize, which has been outstanding. The opening ceremony will be followed by presentations of the 9th International Garifuna Conference from Saturday, March 12th to Sunday, March 13th. The conference will commence at 5 p.m. and will feature scholars and practitioners delivering presentations on various aspects of the Garifuna culture. There will also be presentations from local organizations, researchers, and others. Residents of Fancy are preparing to host their annual National Heroes Day Festival after a 2-year lull due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of La Soufrière volcano last April. The delicacies which the festival is known for are in limited supply. However, the women in the community have committed to do their best to provide enough local food for everyone who attends the Fancy Heroes Day Festival. The 9th International Garifuna Conference, hosted by the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, will commence virtually this evening under the theme Building Resilience, Creating Cultural Capital for Sustainability of the Garifuna Heritage. The opening ceremony for the conference is expected to start at 8 p.m. via Zoom. The guest presentation will be delivered by Monique Joseph of the UWI Seismic Research Center, who will speak on the topic Changing Landscapes and Reimagining the Red Zone Experiences in Post-Disaster Community Engagements for Monitoring Hazards in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The keynote address will be delivered by Garifuna entrepreneur from Belize, Darius Avila, whose leadership and vision created the Battle of the Drums movement in Belize, which has been outstanding. The opening ceremony will be followed by presentations of the 9th International Garifuna Conference from Saturday, March 12th to Sunday, March 13th. The conference will commence at 5 p.m. and will feature scholars and practitioners delivering presentations on various aspects of the Garifuna culture. There will also be presentations from local organizations, researchers, and others. Residents of Fancy are preparing to host their annual National Heroes Day Festival after a 2-year lull due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of La Soufrière volcano last April. The delicacies which the festival is known for are in limited supply. However, the women in the community have committed to do their best to provide enough local food for everyone who attends the Fancy Heroes Day Festival.
Heroes Day celebration in Fancy is usually a highly anticipated event, as it is known to highlight the Garifuna culture. While there will not be a cultural showcase, local foods and items are expected to be on sale. In Fancy yesterday, the women were busy preparing for the day.
Well, I'm sifting some cassava to make bam. So I just siphon it in a spice it, I have enjoyed them. So I will bag them out one time. I want to make some for heroes to get them fresh. But then they dry. So these are my hair to for heroes.
Another woman said she has planned out her menu, which will include everything local.
Farine, marongo and saltfish, breadfruit and blackfish, dokuna and callaloo soup, and pudding. That is what I'm going to provide for Heroes Day. Just come up and enjoy yourself for the day. And we ain't doing much. To the suffering, the suffering destroy everything. So whatever little we have, we're going to put together and do it. So people can still come in and enjoy themselves.
One must appreciate the hard work that goes into making the local foods, as the hard-working women would have planted potatoes and cassava immediately after they returned home in September. However, all did not go as planned as their harvest was limited.
But even to the set up the feeds, in the ash, in the sun and ash, it's abundant, right? So, you're getting a good result up whatever we plant. The cassava limited because hog destroy everything. The potato limited because, animal destroy the potatoes too.
One man said he is hoping to use March 14 Heroes Day to sell his crops.
I start with some dreams. When I did fishing with in this community, I start to take them out. But the sale is not here as yet for them.
Last year, Heroes Day activities in Fancy were scaled down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
And local historian Dr. Adrian Fraser suggests that instead of putting all emphasis on selecting another national hero, the government should put in place a National Awards initiative. Dr. Fraser said that the national awards should be in different categories, including persons who contributed greatly in different fields other than politics.
What we should have done was to institute national awards. So somebody who is an excellent head teacher who has had an impact, rather than make him a national hero, give him one of the highest honors that the country has to offer. Because when you ask for names, people look around and they say, this person was an excellent nurse who did all of this work, but it doesn't fit the category of national hero. So I think the way for us to get out is to have national awards. So you could have the highest national award, as you have in some country, Trinidad and so on. The highest national award, so somebody who has done outstanding work in medicine and teaching and whatever, give him an award as the highest national award, whatever you name it. And in that case, there would not be so much emphasis on trying to name national heroes, because I don't think that we should simply look around and say, the last time we had a national hero was so many years ago, let us have another national hero. I don't think it should be like that. If somebody comes up who you think is deserving of being a national hero, make him a national hero, but do not look around simply because they figure we should have a national hero. Let that come out of the process.
Dr. Fraser said that persons were asked to submit names of who they think should be recognized as another national hero for SVG, and his submission was George McIntosh.
George McIntosh, because George McIntosh, his whole life was served in the interests of the people. He was a pharmacist who operated in the Middle Street. And what normally happened is that in those old days, when you didn't have a lot of drugstores and pharmacies around, a number of the peasants from the country who came to the market on Saturdays in particular, once they have finished selling their goods, they would pass across at McIntosh to buy things for their home, because he made substitutes for a number of things like lime and coal and all of those, and they bought a number of things from him. And so whenever they had issues, they would speak to McIntosh about it. And this is what happened in 1935 when they had the riots. They had increased taxes, and some people went to McIntosh and asked McIntosh if he could make an appeal on their behalf to the governor. So when the Legislative Council met on the Monday in October 21st, the bill was being discussed. And McIntosh went to the governor and said, I have a presentation I want to make on behalf of a number of people.